Hello, Physio practice owners. If you want to know the only 5 numbers that you should absolutely focus on to grow your practice month on and year on, this is the episode for you. Hello and welcome to today's episode. It's called the only 5 numbers a physio practice owner should focus on to grow your practice. Now, being a physio practice owner, typically you're going to have your hands in a lot of pies, managing this, managing that, right? But at the end of the day, your primary role as a practice owner should be the growth of the practice, right? In how to grow it. Now, when it comes to that, when it comes to anything, you're going to have real focus and clarity in what to hone in on to make sure that happens. So what I see with a lot of practice owners is when it comes to growth of their practice or practices, they can sometimes get bogged down in a lot of metrics that don't really matter. What we call vanity metrics. They look great, but it doesn't really matter. What really matters, there are literally 5 numbers you need to focus on to make sure that you not only grow your profits over time, month on month and year on year, not only grow profits, but not only revenue, but grow profits over time as well. There's literally 5 numbers. Now, really honing in on and being disciplined in focusing on these 5 areas only will make it very clear and remove all the noise in what you need to do as a practice owner and as a business owner to grow your practice. And what you'll find as we go through these numbers is you'll start to see a pattern and an association of that number with a particular department that within your practice. All right. So we'll try and match that up as well. If one of the numbers is not doing so well, whose responsibility is it to really get things going? So what are the 5 areas, the 5 numbers that you really need to focus on? Here they are. Now, if you're watching us on video, you'll be able to see this, but I'll lead you through it anyway. Right? What you see here is a bunch of lines, some black writing and some red writing. All right? Now, let me read this out. So leads multiplied by conversions gives you patients, right? In that little mini equation, leads is in black, conversions is in black, patients is in red. And then patients multiplied by the number of treatments, or your PVA, right? Then multiplied by the average sale value or the transaction value. When somebody goes and pays at the front desk, what's the average sale value, right? So patients multiplied by the number of treatments multiplied by the average sale value will give you your revenue, right? Now, number of treatments is in black, average sale value is in black, and revenue is in red. Now, revenue multiplied by margins will give you profits, right? Like I mentioned, revenue is in red, and margins is in black. Now, if you have a look, right, the patients, the revenue, and the profits, they are dependent on the black text, right? For example, the number of patients that come into your practice literally depends on the number of leads, right, or the traffic that's coming in, multiplied by the number of conversions. Number of inquiries coming in by the number of people who convert. As a percentage, will give you the number of patients, right? So what you can say is the red writing, so patients, revenue, and profits, is a product of the black writing, right? So if you notice, the 5 numbers that are important are the ones in black, right? So it's the leads, the conversions, the number of treatments or the PVA, and the average transaction value, and margins. Those are literally the 5 numbers that you need to focus on. So what are they again? They're leads, conversions, number of treatments or PVA, average sale value, and margins. You need to focus on improving those numbers. That's it. Let's break this down as to how this works. So leads, number of leads that are coming in, that is your marketing. Whoever's doing your marketing, or if it's a person within your clinic, or if it's somebody else doing it, they need to make sure that they're bringing enough leads and traffic into the practice. Conversions is sales. Now, typically, this is a responsibility that's shared between the marketing team and the sales team. Sometimes you might have your admin staff who are the front agents trying to deal with inquiries or phone calls that are coming to convert them into patients. Or your marketing agency, whoever's doing your marketing, should have a system where the leads that are coming in, they should have built a system where those leads are nurtured through to be converted as patients. So leads is responsible by marketing. Conversions it's responsible by marketing and sale. So that gives you a number of patients. Number of treatments is, if you really have a look at it, that's your PVA, that's your physios, your delivery team, right? You might even go above that. Say, for example, a new grad physio doesn't have a great PVA. So why is that? Well, maybe they're not getting enough mentoring and training to be more educated on PVA and actually serving a patient and not underserving them or not overserving them as well, right? So whose responsibility is that? Well, ultimately it is the physio's responsibility, whoever's delivering, to get the PVA up typically, right? Because they are the ones who are interacting with the patients. But it might be a leadership or a mentoring issue that there's not training for those physios or graduate physios or whoever's coming in to the practice as physios, or the therapists that are delivering the service. There's not enough mentoring to train them in getting a number of treatments, right? Or the PVA up. So that is who's responsible for that. Now, the average sale value, all right, so the transactions, including any sort of products and things like that, who's that the responsibility of? That's typically management, all right, practice owner. Practice owner sets the pricing, pricing of the appointments, pricing per minute, pricing per half hour, pricing per hour, whatever that is, along with the costs of the price of the product. All right. Average sale value is the responsibility of the management team. Now, margins it's the responsibility of, if you really think about it, it's the finance team, right? It's your accountant and the practice manager. They need to be working together to make sure the margins are sound enough. But what we find is this: accountants are trained to cut spending, right? Without necessarily considering what the ROI is on that spending, all right? This is where you need to work with the accountant. If you leave the accountant by themselves, they'll get you to cut all this spending, but they might be cutting away spending that's actually bringing you ROI. This is where you need to be a part of this system as a practice and a business owner with the accountant to make sure your margins are polished up. That's a very, very important thing. So remember, the 5 numbers you need to work on: number of leads you're getting in, which is the marketing department; number of conversions, which is the marketing and the sales department; number of treatments, or PVA, is the physio who's delivering it / the mentoring team to help the physios do that. Average sale value as the practice owner to set the pricing. Margins is the practice owner or the business owner and the accountant or the finance team. That's who's responsible for them. If you literally work on these 5 areas, you can see the byproduct is elementary maths, right? If you work on the top 4, leads, conversions, number of treatment, or the PVA, and the average sale value, that will improve the revenue. If you work on the margins, they'll give you more profit. That's as simple as it gets. These are the only 5 numbers. Let's just say if you want to increase your profits and your revenue by a certain amount. Well, I'm going to show you an example that is going to make this look extremely attractive, all right? You don't need, because they're multiplications of each other, you don't need a lot of change in each area to have a profound impact the lower you get, right? Lower red writing you get. So, you'll have more patients, revenue, and profit just by having small improvements. Let me give you an example. So I'm going to cover an example where each of those black writings, right, the things we can control, right, in other words, the things that are not the product of the elements, right, with just 10% improvement on those 5 areas, this is the kind of effect you can have. All right. Now, once again, if you're watching this video, you can see what's going on. Okay. So if you have a 10% improvement in the leads, and if you have a 10% improvement in the conversion, all right, so that's 110% multiplied by 110%, you'll have increased patients by 121%. Right? So far, it's not that attractive. Okay. So 121% if you improve 10% on each. Yeah, sure. Okay. So number of now if you have an improvement of the number of treatment, if you increase your PVA by 10%, just 10%, and the average sale value goes up by 10%, right? All of a sudden, your revenue has now improved overall by 46%. It's now at 146%. Just by changing 4 things, you've given yourself a 46% uplift in revenue. Now, if you improve your margins 10% even more, your profits would have gone up by 61%. Think about that. All you did was improve each of these areas by 10%, which is not a lot, which is quite a small, achievable, manageable amount. 10% on each of those will give you an improvement of profits by 61% and improvement of revenue by 46%. That's a lot. So let me give you a bit of a idea as to what this means in figures. All right. In terms of revenue, let's just say you're a practice at $500,000 a year. If you do those 4 things, if you have 10% more leads, 10% more conversions, 10% more PVA, and 10% average price per transaction, you would have grown your revenue from $500,000 to $730,000 just by 10% improvement. That's a $230,000 uplift, right, by just improving 10% in 4 areas. That's big, right? So if you have a $750,000 annual revenue practice, you would have uplifted your revenue by $345,000 to over $1 million per year, right? $1,095,000 to be exact. All right. All of a sudden, you are now $1 million practice just by improving 10% in 4 areas. Pretty easy, right? So if you have $1 million practice, now you've gone up to $1.46 million, all right? Or you've gone up by $460,000 just by improving 10% of your practice. Think about what you can do with that, right? That's a lot of staff. That's a lot of marketing. That's a lot of sales to grow even more. If you're running a $3 million practice, you're up by $1.38 million to $4.38 million, all right? With 10% improvement in 4 areas. If you're a $5 million practice, you're up by $2.3 million to $7.3 million practice. If you're at $10 million, you've improved by $4.6 million. All right. You've gone from 10 million to 14.6 million just by improving 10% in each of the 4 of the 5 critical areas. Think about that. That is a huge change. So the thing that we really need to be clear on, growing your practice is actually very easy if you know what to focus on and what to do to improve those areas, right? It's those 5 areas. So make sure your marketing team is really on it to get you lots of leads. And that's the top line thing, right? That's the most important thing right at the top. You need to make sure you get a lot of leads. Then your sales team and your marketing team needs to improve the number of leads into conversion, improve your conversion rate by 10%, all right? Then you need to work on your PVA, your patient visit average for your physios. Now, this could be an issue. Generally, it's a physio mentoring of the physios issue. So focus on how you can help the physios improve their PVA just by 10%. Average transaction value is the next one. 10% improvement or 10% price lift is not a big deal, right? For the right patients. So think about how you can change that around and think about not just increasing the price, but maybe how we can improve the value of what we give that doesn't cost us that extra 10% in charge, but we're getting more, we can charge more because we're creating more value. Think of how you can create more value to put the prices up. And then, of course, working with your accounting team directly to have an impact on the margins as well. All right. That's literally the only way. So I hope those 5 numbers are really useful. If you find that useful, there are heaps of videos, articles, things to download like this that'll help you scale your practice to the next level in our website, physiomarketing.co, that's .co. Head down there, browse through those articles, download a few things. If you want to have a chat to in how to get your practice to the next level as well, you can book a call through there. Other than that, thank you for joining us and see you next time.